get set to start talking winter sports here at UMass Dartmouth. And of course, around here, that means men's basketball and women's basketball. But the men's ice hockey team here has been a very strong program for an awfully long time in these parts. And one of the biggest reasons why joins me right now, head coach John Rolli. He and his 562 career wins sit in this chair to my right. And you're looking forward to another potentially strong year here in 2014-15.
Well, we should have a rebound season from a year ago. Last year was just a difficult year. We couldn't hold leads and lost a number of games in the final minutes. So I would expect with the turnover and personnel that we've had and the new players we've brought in to match with our veterans, we should have a good rebound year.
Now, you're, of course, a hockey lifer, so none of this is anything new to you. But in the last 5 years in particular, the sport is really exploding in popularity in this part of the region. And a lot of that has to do with the success of the Bruins winning the 2011 Stanley Cup. But it seems like it's a lot harder to get ice time than it used to be. But is that really starting to trickle up to the collegiate level? Are you seeing better players now than maybe you were a generation ago because so many more athletes are getting involved?
Well, I think in ice hockey at the collegiate level, it's more the development of junior programs throughout the country. And, you know, you look at our roster, we have players from Anchorage, Alaska, Vancouver, British Columbia, Tampere, Finland. We've had players from Florida, Texas. So the hockey is spread throughout the country, and with the internet, we can recruit players all over the world. And locally, though, there has been a resurgence in hockey, especially, as you said, from the Bruins Stanley Cup win a couple years ago. As a matter of fact, it's too big of a resurgence because some Saturdays we've been bumped to later in the day because Nantucket youth hockey is coming over every Saturday.
As long as you know your place, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it is a little bit different for you recruiting than it is for other collegiate sports. As you mentioned, a lot of times you're not getting a kid true out of high school, fresh out of high school, and a Massachusetts kid, as is the case for so many other programs. So how do you monitor those junior programs? How does somebody pop up on your radar as someone you can realistically get? And then how do you go about putting them in blue and white?
Well, back in the old days, we used to just recruit high school seniors. And now we'll look at high school players knowing that they'll probably need a year or two in many instances of junior hockey. In Division III, recruiting is all about perseverance. You usually don't get a player to come in that first look. And so we stay after them and follow them through. And, you know, fortunately, we've been able to do pretty well over the years.
And just for people that might not be as familiar as you and I with the Division III scene, you know, Division III has its connotation when you say it out loud, but very few Division I schools have a full-fledged men's hockey program, and there's almost no Division II programs at all. So Division III is a high level of competition anyway, but particularly in your sport, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it really is. The quality of play in Division III ice hockey is phenomenal. And, you know, a perfect example is a player that we had a year ago, Dmitry Antipin, a Russian player. He played for us for 2 seasons. And before his senior year with us, he was invited to the New Jersey Devils development camp. And he was competing with some of their top draft picks and minor league players. And then when our season ended last year, he went and played for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers in the American Hockey League, which is the next step to the NHL. And there are a number of stories like that in Division III college hockey.
And in Division III college hockey, you need to really be all in as a program in order to be competitive, because you need to have a home rink to call your own, you need to have access to it, you need to be able to schedule games when it fits for a college student schedule, and you know, it really is an easy process to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff in this sport, and you're going after a lot of those strong programs with your 2014-15 schedule.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, our non-league schedule this year, whoever the coach was who scheduled it should be fired. But in any event, you know, we're playing three teams in the top 25 out of our 7 non-league opponents. The 7 non-league opponents' winning percentage from a year ago was 65%, which is the strongest and most difficult non-league schedule in college hockey Division III this coming season.
And when you talk about the difficulty of schedule, you're talking about the quality of your opponents, but the schedule is also difficult just with respect to the calendar itself. It really is, I believe, the longest season of any Division III sport, at least among the team sports, because you start playing at the very beginning of November here, and if your season goes where you want it to go, you'll still be playing come St. Patrick's Day if you go that far. I mean, it can be a very long season. How do you manage your roster over the course of it to make sure that you've got a legitimate lineup out there each and every night, considering the injuries and such?
Well, the thing about college hockey is we start a week later than the other winter sports, and we open up our schedule 2 weeks before most winter sports teams. So for example, we took the ice on October 20th was our first day of practice, and our first game is November 1st. So we basically had 2 weeks to get ready for our first game. And over the course of the season, aside from 2-3 weeks off for final exams and for kids to go home for the week before Christmas to New Year's, we're right back on January 2nd with hockey, even though classes don't start until around the 25th or 26th. It's a long season. Hey, certainly players on the team build for that with their off-season conditioning and workout program that we have with Brendan Williams and Greg Hummel down in our fitness center. So, hey, we're able to withstand it. And it's interesting. Most of the players we have all come from junior programs, and they're playing 55, 60 games a season. So they're used to this the longevity of the hockey season.
And as you mentioned, not only is there a longevity to the season, but there's a lot of turnovers as players can oftentimes get opportunities to play elsewhere, and they might come and go quickly. So you're having to inject a lot of new blood into this program this season. You've actually got more newcomers than you do returning players, 13 and 12 respectively. Yep. Give us a little preview of some of these new faces that we'll be seeing at the Hetland this year and what they'll be able to do for your team.
Well, I think we've got some very dynamic players, both at forward and on defense. Up front as forwards, we have Casey Shea, who comes to us from the Islanders Hockey Club in North Andover. Was an outstanding high school player at Woburn High School, scored 5 goals in a state tournament game when he was a junior. We have a winger on Casey Shea's line named Jarrett Babbage. And those old-time hockey fans out there probably remember the name of Dave Babbage. His father played 14 years in the NHL. He played in the British Columbia Hockey League for the Chilliwack Chiefs. He's from North Vancouver. We have 2 transfers coming in, both from Norwich, which is always a top Division III program. Mike Kelly from Stoneham and Matt Baldino from Woburn. On defense, our top defenseman is a freshman by the name of Jerry Laxo, who's from Finland, and he played in a program over there, Ils Tampere, which is the same junior program that Tuukka Rask grew up in before he came to North America and played for the Providence Bruins and the Boston Bruins.
And delve into that a little bit farther. Is that something that is prevalent in the hockey community? It's very common for a player that you have to have had connections and having played against players at the youth level and on into the junior level that are up playing into the very highest level of the sport. So you schedule a tough schedule, yes, but you know that you're putting guys out on the ice that have faced top competition really from the time they've been little kids.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you want your non-league schedule to challenge you and to make a team better. And hey, certainly the goal is, as we did 2 years ago, was to win our league conference, the MassCAC conference, and go get one of only 11 bids to the NCAA tournament. You know, unlike other sports where there are 48 or 64 teams in the NCAA tournament, in Division III ice hockey there are only 11. So it's a very high-skilled, high-level quality of play.
And very unforgiving tournament, as we've learned the hard way a couple of times.
Well, it's a tremendous experience once you've been there.
So you mentioned going into the MassCAC. I believe this is your 3rd year competing in that conference as you've moved out of the ECAC environment that's sort of blurred across a couple of leagues now. And so you're playing a lot of schools that are closer to home, a lot of schools where you're competing for those exact same players given the difference in in-state versus out-of-state tuition rates. And how has that changed the nature of how you draw up a team on the whiteboard before you start going recruiting and how you actually bring kids into the fold versus before?
Pretty much all of the teams in our conference have similar admissions standards and similar financial aid awards. Some of the teams have the benefits of their own on-campus ice facility and head coaching positions. Of the 5 hockey-playing Little East schools, we're the only one with a part-time coaching position, but I mean, that's the way it's always been, I guess. But you know, for us, certainly in the league, you know, we're hoping to rebound where we were a couple years ago, where we finished second in the regular season and then won the playoffs at Plymouth State on the road.
And if you take a look out across the landscape within your league, who are some of the teams that figure to be the stronger ones, and what do they have that defines them that's going to make them tough for you to top?
The two teams that played in the championship game last year, Salem and Plymouth, will certainly be two very strong programs. The 5 years of the league, Salem has won the tournament twice. Fitchburg, UMass Dartmouth, and Plymouth have each won it once. I would say Fitchburg has a very strong team. Westfield isn't too far behind. You know, the thing about our league is that every night out, any team can win, and no clearer case can be drawn than Framingham, which has predominantly been at the tail end of the league standings, finished in third place last year. So it's very competitive. It's a battle every night.
And absolutely it is. And if you take a look down your schedule, which of course you're very familiar with, you know, we have some people watching that might only be able to make it to one or two games over the course of the season, or might be coming to check out your team at the Hetland for the first time. So what are some of the highlights as you look down your schedule? If you were speaking to a fan that might want to check you out once or twice, what are the games that you think you'd really like to have a full house for?
Well, if I was a hockey fan looking to watch UMass Dartmouth this year, I'd come early. Our home opener is on Veterans Day, which is Tuesday, November 11th. 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be great if you want to bring your family along with you. And that should be a very good league matchup against Worcester State. And then we only have 3 home games out of our first 10, and we only have 11 out of the 25. So, you know, I would say that games against league rivals, Fitchburg, Salem State, and Plymouth should be very good.
And then lastly, Coach, I just feel it would be a sacrilege if we did a hockey interview and didn't talk about what you had going on in goal. I know you've had some very good goalkeepers here over the year. How's that position looking for this season?
Well, we've been very, very blessed between the pipes. This year we have a sophomore by the name of J.J. Soloway. He had 5 starts, played in 7 games last season, and had a 9.25 save percentage. You know, we think that Soloway could be a good one for us. I'd say early in the season, you know, we're going to be finding our way where we have so many new players on the lineup. But I think come January, this could be a pretty good team.
All right, Coach. Well, best of luck to you in navigating through this long season. And here's hoping we're having a couple more of these come March.
Thanks for having me, John.
All right, that's UMass Dartmouth men's ice hockey coach John Rolli previewing his season in 2014-15.